They abandoned her in the forest to save themselves. But when darkness swallowed their kingdom whole, only the girl they left to die could bring back the light. This is the story of Amara, the unwanted child who became the kingdom's last hope. And tonight, beneath this ancient Baobab, her truth will finally be told.
Welcome home to Tales from the Baobab, where wisdom lives in stories.
In the great Kingdom of Zawara, where the river Lumina flowed like liquid silver and the mountains touched the clouds, there lived a merchant named Chief Okon and his wife, Adaeze. They had everything: wealth that could fill 100 granaries, respect that made even elders bow, and a compound so vast that birds lost their way crossing it. But there was one thing they did not have. One thing that made Adaeze weep into her pillow each night: a son. Year after year, the rains came and went. Year after year, Adaeze's belly remained flat. The other wives in the village whispered, the elders shook their heads, and Chief Okon's smile grew thinner with each passing season. Then, on a night when the moon hid behind the clouds as if afraid to watch, Adaeze finally gave birth. But the midwife's face fell like a stone into water. "It is a girl," she whispered, and those 4 words carried the weight of a curse. Chief Okon turned away without even looking at the child. "A daughter cannot inherit my name. A daughter cannot lead my people. What use is she to me?" Adaeze held the baby close, feeling the tiny heartbeat against her chest. The child's eyes, bright as morning stars, looked up at her with absolute trust. But fear is a poison that spreads faster than love can grow. When the branch is bent by fear, it forgets it comes from the same tree, the old ones say. And so, on the 7th night, when the village slept and even the crickets were silent, Adaeze wrapped her daughter in a cloth as blue as sorrow. She walked into the whispering forest, a place where shadows had teeth and hope went to die. She placed the baby beneath a baobab tree so old that some said it remembered the first word ever spoken. "Forgive me," Adaeze whispered, her tears falling on the baby's face like rain. "But I cannot raise what my husband will not claim." She named her Amara, which means grace, and walked away without looking back. Because sometimes looking back requires more courage than walking forward. But here's what Chief Okon and Adaeze did not know. The forest was not empty, and the baobab tree, it had been listening to the prayers of the broken-hearted for 1,000 years.
Amara did not die that night. As the first rays of dawn touched the forest floor, an old woman emerged from between the trees. Her hair was white as cotton, her back bent like a question mark, and her eyes held the kind of wisdom that sees through walls. Her name was Mama Zara, and she was no ordinary woman. Some said she was a witch. Others said she was a goddess who had grown tired of heaven. But the truth was simpler and stranger. She was a keeper of forgotten knowledge, the last guardian of the old ways. Mama Zara picked up the crying baby and smiled. "So, they have given you to me," she said softly. "Those fools in their big houses, throwing away diamonds because they wanted gold. The hen does not ignore its chick because it has only one leg," Mama Zara murmured, as she carried Amara deeper into the forest to a hut that seemed to grow from the earth itself. And so, Amara grew up not in a palace, but in paradise. Mama Zara taught her the language of birds and the secrets of healing herbs. She showed her how to read the sky for coming storms and how to listen to the earth for hidden springs. She taught her that strength isn't about how loud you can shout, but how still you can stand when the world is shaking. "Why do people fear the forest, Mama?" young Amara asked one evening as they prepared herbs under the moonlight. Mama Zara laughed, a sound like wind chimes dancing. People fear what they do not understand, child, and they do not understand anything that cannot be bought, sold, or put in a box. Amara learned to move through the forest like a whisper. She learned to call rain when the earth was thirsty and to silence storms when crops were ready for harvest, though the villagers never knew who blessed them. By her 16th year, Amara had become something the kingdom had never seen, a woman who needed no man's name to define her, no crown to prove her worth. But fate, as the elders say, is a river that always finds its way to the sea. Because while Amara was becoming everything the kingdom needed, Zawara itself was dying. And the cause? The very greed that had thrown Amara away.
Chief Okon had grown richer over the years. He had built his second compound, married 2 more wives, and finally had 3 sons. He smiled more, laughed louder, through festivals that lasted for days. But wealth, when built on a foundation of cruelty, is like a house built on sand. It began with the river. The river Lumina, which had flowed for 1,000 generations, simply stopped. One morning, it was there. The next, it was gone, as if the gods had drunk it dry. Crops withered, animals died, children cried with thirst, while their parents dug deeper and deeper into the earth, finding nothing but dust. Then came the darkness. It started at the edges of the kingdom and crept inward like a living thing, a shadow that swallowed sunlight. Where it touched, joy turned to despair, laughter became screams, love twisted into hate. People began to forget who they were. A mother would look at her child and see a stranger. Friends became enemies over a cup of water. The kingdom was eating itself alive. Chief Okon summoned every medicine man, every priest, every oracle within 100 villages. They all said the same thing. This is not a cost that can be bought away, Chief Okon. This is a debt, and debts must be paid. What debt? Chief Okon roared. I have given to the temples. I have fed the poor. An ancient oracle, her eyes white as milk, spoke words that made his blood freeze. 16 years ago, you threw away something precious. The land remembers, the gods remember, and now, what you discarded is the only thing that can save you. Chief Okon's face went grey. No, it cannot be. Adaeze collapsed to her knees. The child, our daughter, what have we done? You cannot harvest where you refuse to plant, the oracle said coldly. Find the girl you abandoned, or watch your kingdom turn to ash. And so, the great Chief Okon, who had once had everything, was forced to go on his knees into the very forest where he had left his daughter to die. But would he find her? And if he did, would she even want to help? Chief Okon and Adaeze entered the whispering forest with trembling legs. Every shadow looked like judgment. Every bird's cry sounded like mockery. They found the ancient Baobab tree, and there, as if she had been waiting for 16 years, stood Amara. She was nothing like they expected. No anger twisted her face. No bitterness hardened her eyes. She simply stood there, radiant as morning light, with Mama Zara beside her. Chief Okon fell to his knees. My daughter, I am not your daughter by your choosing, Amara said quietly. I am your daughter by birth alone. You wanted me dead, so why should I not let your kingdom die? Adaeze wept. We were fools, cowards. We let pride and tradition kill our hearts. Amara looked at them for a long moment. Then she looked at Mama Zara.
The old woman smiled. The question, child, is not whether they deserve your help. The question is, who are you? And in that moment, Amara understood. When the rain falls, it does not ask which crops deserve water. It simply falls. She turned to her parents. I will save your kingdom, not because you deserve it, but because the people suffering in it do. The children who did nothing wrong. The mothers and fathers who are simply trying to survive. Amara walked into Zawara not as a victim, but as a queen without a crown. She climbed to the highest point in the kingdom and began to sing. An ancient song Mama Zara had taught her, a melody older than kingdoms, older than greed. As she sang, the earth began to tremble, not with destruction, but with remembering. The river Lumina burst forth from the ground, clear and cold and pure. The darkness that had covered the land shattered like glass, letting sunlight pour through. People blinked and looked at each other, memory flooding back, love rekindling in hearts that had forgotten how to feel. The kingdom was saved. Chief Okon approached Amara as she descended from the mountain. Stay, he begged. Rule with me. Take your place as Princess of Zawara. Amara looked at him with something like pity. I already have a place, father. It is in the forest, with the woman who taught me that worth is not given by others, it is remembered from within. She turned to leave, but then looked back with the hint of a smile. But I will visit, and when I do, I will teach your people what Mama Zara taught me, that the things you throw away often hold the greatest power. The tree does not curse the rain for falling elsewhere. It simply grows deeper roots. And with that, Amara walked back into the forest, leaving behind a kingdom that would never again mistake wealth for worth or tradition for wisdom. And so, my friends, the story ends where it began, beneath the Baobab tree, where cast-off things become treasures and the rejected become saviors. What you abandon in darkness often returns in light, not for revenge, but for redemption. Remember, grace is not about deserving. It's about choosing to be more than what hurt you. Here at Tales from the Baobab, we gather stories that do more than entertain, they transform. If Amara's journey stirred something in you, if her wisdom lit a candle in your spirit, then welcome to the circle. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because beneath this Baobab, we're building something sacred, a community where ancient wisdom meets modern souls. Drop a comment and tell us, have you ever been underestimated? What gift did that challenge unlock in you? And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, someone who's been cast aside or forgotten their worth, share it with them. Because some stories aren't just meant to be heard, they're meant to be passed on. Until the next story, remember, wisdom lives in stories. And you carry that wisdom now. Tales from the Baobab, where wisdom lives in stories.